Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, From the Depths of Darkness to the Light of Success. I am your host, Chris Swick, and on this podcast, we talk about mental health, addictions, ADHD, eating disorders, and really anything anyone's afraid to talk about. We talk about it on this show. I want to make people afraid to not talk about these things going on in our world today. And before we get started, if you could head over to the YouTube page, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications. You can get all video formats over there of every episode over on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, and also hit me up on some Instagram at Depths of Darkside. You can follow along on my personal journey and anything going on with the show. We have lots of great chats over there as well. With no further ado, I'd love to introduce you another fellow podcaster, Veronica from out in Alberta, Canada. You want to take it away and let them know a little bit about you, Veronica, and what you do and what your podcast is called?
Yeah. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. So, yeah, I'm from Alberta, or I live there. I'm originally from BC, but I live in Alberta, and I have a little podcast. It's called Rambling Ronnie's podcast. I'm still trying to figure out the exact niche I want to fit it into. It started with a couple true crime episodes, but I did recently a movie review, and I'm figuring out which direction I want to go with it. But I'm just having fun for now, figuring out what to do. I'm excited because I'm doing school right now for social media and digital marketing. So that's got into that. That's why it's kind of like it's there. It's my little pet project, but I'm still figuring it out a bit. But please go listen and let me know what you think, everyone.
And where can they find that Rambling Ronnie podcast?
So for listening to episodes, you can find it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and there's a lot of others. There's what's that one? The Good
Good
Pods.
Pods.
Yeah. So
That's where we found one another.
yeah, I wasn't sure where it started because I think, like following each other. At least I've got you on my Facebook. I'm following you on LinkedIn and Instagram and everything. So I'm like, where did it start
Got
exactly?
all the corners covered.
Exactly. So yeah, it's on all the platforms. I'm pretty sure if you just type it in, you'll find it. Type it into Google, and I'm active on social media, so you can find me on Twitter and all. Yeah.
Let's have a Twitter war.
I don't know if I'm good at that. I realized going into Twitter, I was like, you can have full conversations just by doing GIFs. And I'm like, that's pretty fun.
It is lots of fun for sure. So why Rambling Ronnie? Where did that name come from? I guess Veronica, I came to the top of my head when I asked that question. I'm assuming that's where it comes from.
Ronnie comes from that. Yeah. So, like, I
Yeah.
grew up Ronnie is the typical nickname kind of thing, but it's funny. I like to share it, even though it's weird. But a lot of my family growing up called me Cockapoo Wang. I don't know. My siblings somehow came up with it, and I was like, maybe that explains why I am the way I am. But it's always been funny to me, though. It's never been hurtful to me, even though eventually someone broke down all the words and was like, "Your family's calling you, you know, a, a poopy dick." I'm sorry, I had to say it, but that's what it. And I'm like, so that's interesting. Yeah, I definitely have a sense of humor, I think. So
That's an amazing sense of humor. If you got a sense of humor for sure, like you can take any joke, it sounds.
yeah, for the most part. But the rambling part is I'm actually quite shy and introverted, especially if I don't know people well. But I'll talk to my sister or friends on WhatsApp, and I will sometimes sit and talk for over 10 minutes. And I would realize how long I was talking for, and I'd go, oh, there's Rambling Ronnie going again, Rambling Ronnie. And that just somehow became a thing. So then when I was coming up with the podcast idea, I was like, oh, maybe Rambling Ronnie would work.
That's amazing. And you could like even go into some like amazing solo episodes, I feel, with that Rambling Ronnie title there. I feel you could
Yeah.
go on some awesome rants and just talk about life events and the bullshit going on in our world today.
I could. I think once I get more confident in myself and with my opinions, 'cause I'm very strong in my convictions, but I find it when I'm getting pushed back, I it's a little scary to me. So I think that's like what I'm still trying to figure out a little bit is how to like make sure I manage not overreacting or overthinking when someone maybe has a negative comment. I did have a thing that happened where someone had a negative comment and it really bothered me so much. And so I just turned around and just tweeted all these funny memes and stuff and just tried to put out positivity and take whatever I could from people who were reacting positively to that. And that definitely turned around that situation for me. So I think
Nice.
I think I posted too much though, because for a day it was hard for me to go on Twitter. But
Fair enough.
that's how I had to combat that. You got to try to figure out a way to like, hey, I gotta. especially because I guess as we're going into talking about mental health, a big thing is learning about yourself and who you are, or creating who you are, but also learning about your emotions and how you react to things and all that. And so just figuring out the way you can combat negativity, that is very useful. And I don't have it quite perfected, but I think I'm finding the way to deal with it and with things like
Now that sort of leads me into one of my questions I was actually going to ask a little later on, but now that we're on this topic about combating negativity and criticism and stuff, why is it important to know how to overcome criticism?
because there is validity in certain criticism. It's knowing how to take it, because sometimes people will say something that you can use and you can be like, "Oh, I didn't realize I wasn't seeing it this way," or something, whatever the situation is. And even at work especially, I don't have a special job, I just do cleaning and stuff, but that's always been something I've held on to, is going to work and having strong work ethic and working really hard. And so if there's something negative, it's really sometimes hard for me to take it. I know how to just take a deep breath and go, "Thank you for letting me know," kind of thing, but then I have to sometimes go cry because it's like, "What? That wasn't very I've worked so hard." Whatever. But it's anything, like if someone has there's something you can take from everything, whether it's the criticism or you're going through something in life, there's something you can learn and take from everything. So if you can learn how to take, say, like a criticism and have it there, and you're like, I see it, I hear it, but I'm not internalizing it in that way, but I'm recognizing what is being said, and whether it's something that's useful for me or it's something that is obviously just a silly comment from a troll or a perspective or feedback that's not constructive or helpful, or someone's not saying something like that, what they're saying doesn't make sense or whatever. It's figuring that out so that you don't just automatically react and go, I'm hurt, or I don't like this that someone's saying this, being offended kind of thing, because there's so much to learn in life. That's how you improve.
I totally get what you're saying too, and at the end of the day, like you're saying, you have control over your, actions and reactions too. You don't always have to react to everything that's said to you, or if there's criticism being pushed your way. If it's in a really negative and not quite positive or constructive criticism, you have that option to not react and just move on. Hit that block button, or just say, you know what, I'm not responding to this because it's not going to go anywhere. You can clearly see they're just doing it out of anger, out of spite to get a reaction out of you. And if you give that reaction, then they've got what they wanted at the end of the day. So if you don't give it, that just adds more fuel to their fire, but in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes there's also, you have your point of view and someone else has a point of view, and they say something and you take it the wrong way, but they're just maybe just try they think they're saying a funny comment or something, but you're like, "No, that I don't know why you're saying." I don't want to say specific examples. It's just knowing, okay, you for one, you don't have to react to everything, which is reacting to that, or as someone who's an audience member, you don't always have to share every single thing you think about, I think, depending on the
Yeah,
situation.
it's a TMI thing, and you don't. Sometimes it's too much information, and I'm learning that myself, learning from others and what I've been told. Sometimes I share a little too much information. I don't have to share everything about my past. You don't have to share everything, but you can remember where you came from too. Sometimes if you share a little too much information, that might give people the wrong vibe about you, because that's not who you truly are, but that's who you were before. You don't need to tell them every little tidbit of information, or every little tidbit of a story or of something that you've done in your past, hurt your credibility at the end of the day too.
Yeah, it's really tough, especially being on a journey with for me, it's like my whole not whole life, but since I was very young, I felt like I've been on this journey of self-discovery and understanding mental health and all that, because it took many years to understand that there was an issue. And so it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's hard sometimes to talk about certain things, but then again, it's interesting when you finally get to a place where you come at your own life experiences with curiosity and stuff, like, and go, okay, like what led to this or what caused this, and trying to see patterns and figure out, so then you can move forward from what you've done kind of thing, or what uh move forward from to be the person that you want to be thing. So that's where I am. I'm really in this work in progress, like just every I have like disclaimers all over and a badge, just work in progress.
Hey, it's better than not working on anything at the end of the day, Veronica, for sure. So
Yeah.
let's touch a little bit, like you're in recovery yourself too. You've quit doing drugs and alcohol. Now, how was that at first when you came to that conclusion that these things are taking over my life and I need to do something about
I'm gonna just say first, like, I know you've had a lot of guests on who are very long term, like, or have been in recovery for quite a while, but I'm still very new into my recovery, like a few months kind of
it.
thing.
That's amazing, though. That's better than one day at a time is how we get there.
Yeah, so it's definitely a struggle, I think. Like I really resonate. The one thing you posted that was recovery is a daily battle, I think you said, or something like that. And some people might not agree. Maybe it's easier. They're at a point where it's not like that for them. But for me, it definitely is because to go back to what made me recognize I was having issues, I'm trying to think of where to really start because it's you recognize there's choices you make as you're getting older, but for me, I was dealing a lot with anxiety and depression and stuff. And so that throughout high school, it was like that. And then it led to me being in some really bad relationships. And while I was in my relationships and figuring things out, I always had this thing where I thought it was all my own fault because of my own decisions. I didn't think about the fact that I was making decisions based on my frame of mind and where I was. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you heard that. Something popped up on my computer. But being in, hang on, I got to think of where I was going with that. Yeah, I was making a lot of bad decisions and I didn't realize, I just kept thinking it's because I'm again, like, going from growing up with low self-esteem and a lot of issues, it was, "Okay, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, you're stupid, you're whatever. This is why you're making decisions." When you beat yourself down like that, you don't recognize, like, that's all attached to anxiety and depression and everything, and no one tells you that really, or at least not if you're fortunate, someone will recognize it and get you help, but I was in a relationship with someone who had said, like, people who take medication and seek counseling are pathetic and stuff like that. So I thought because I was trying to share with him, I had seen a doctor because I was having some panic attacks, which I dealt with a lot. And so I recognized I had it, but no one ever said you have it. It's just you're experiencing panic attacks. Tell yourself you're okay. And so it just kept getting, oh, it's my own fault. I'm pathetic. It was just reinforced all the time. And I got to a point where then I was single, living on my own, drinking a lot and blacking out all the time, and that's when I was like, "Hey, I need to slow down on that." But that didn't really happen. I thought it was like I was slowing down, but I wasn't really. And eventually getting to the point of life just being just such a struggle and like really feeling very suicidal and stuff like that. So it's really heavy and it's hard to go to work. It's hard to be around people. It's when you're feeling awful. And so I didn't want to give up. I'm scared of death still and the idea of that like taking that action. But so I think what really got me on the path was I went to just a local theater thing and there was a person that was doing it's either a free or $5 show thing that was a little thing about comedy and mental health. And so I went to that and they had some resources after and I picked up some papers out of resources for local places to go for help. And I just was having like a day where I just was panic attack, I couldn't function, and I just drove right down to the mental health center and I managed to connect with a counselor. And in the past couple of years, I have been here and there seeing different counselors, getting on medication and all that. And it's just been such a process. But seeing after a couple years, I'm not where I want to be and it's going to take longer, but seeing the progress and how life is now, it's crazy how your own brain and your own thoughts dictate so much and affect you so much, and it's just so fortunate when people don't have that, yet it's sad when people haven't experienced that and then they wanna turn around and say, "You need to try harder, you need to be happy, you need to be positive," and it's that there's elements of that that are true, but you can't just say that to someone and just say, "Be happy." Like, that it doesn't work like that. You have to create the channels in your brain to be happy when you're constantly in a path of negativity.
Yeah, you have
Ramble,
to
ramble, ramble.
rewire your brain. No, that's awesome. I love hearing your thoughts, and it's really cool to hear how your journey started going to this, comedy show a little at the local theater, and then they had talks about or the talking about mental health, and they had all those pamphlets and stuff after, and it's amazing they had them there for a reason. You went there for a reason, clearly, and there you are on your journey, starting your journey, and here we are 2 years later. You're on my podcast talking about your journey, talking about your struggles, and that's what it's all about, is helping others.
Yeah, I don't know what I have to contribute really, but I just think of anyone who's in a place where I am and have been in the past where I always thought I can't how am I going to go to school? How am I going to do anything? I'm just going to be scrubbing toilets all my life, which there's nothing wrong with that, but again, it's just me looking down on myself all the time. And yeah, I really hope that anyone who's listening and if they're feeling really alone or can't express themselves, I really implore people to go to a counselor. You don't have to go pay for a psychologist. Try to find even just someone to talk to who can help you figure out your thoughts and help you to care about yourself and then maybe if you need like a full psychiatrist or psychologist, then you can find that out, but sometimes you just do need someone to talk to and help you recognize, oh, okay, this is where that's coming from, especially if you have a really good person who like I've had some counselors, I'm like, holy man, you're so good. You just see me, you know me, it's great. And it feels good to be seen and heard sometimes. You don't want to seem like you're attention seeking, but you also do want attention. You want someone to help you talk to your own inner child and go like, we're going through something, but I got you, you got me. You're talking to yourself saying this. And you have to sometimes do that. You have to rely on yourself and be your own advocate.
Oh, 100%. You have to talk those, that self-love is what it's all about. Tell yourself, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to have an amazing day today, or today's going to be a good day, sort of thing. Just those little things that cheer you up in the morning and get you going. After those self affirmations are amazing. And I challenge you all to start doing that, talking positively to yourself in the morning. Write down those affirmations and say them over and over every day, every morning, at night before you go to bed. Those are little things that I've been doing and say them in my head now. And sometimes I'll say them out loud in the shower.
Exactly. While you're driving down the road, instead of yelling at the person that's driving you nuts who's driving in front of you or something, then maybe you can yell to get the anger out, but be like, I love myself so much or whatever.
Exactly. Let's circle back to, you're talking about suicide earlier, but you're afraid of death. I've had those thoughts as well, but I really am afraid of death too. But I do know that we all die someday. We're only on this earth for a short time. But what were some of the thoughts going through your head when you're thinking about suicide? But and then you sort of talk yourself out of this, because you just mentioned that you are afraid of death, so it's not really the way you would like to go. But sounds more like thoughts of suicide ideation and stuff too, which lots of us do have, and they're okay to have these thoughts. There's nothing wrong with you, just so you know, if you do have these thoughts, anyone that's listening.
Yeah, I think it's normal to be questioning what life is and stuff and what's going on and what how do you feel about life and stuff because that's how you discover what do I want to do with my life and what kind of person do I want to be. Whether you believe you're leaving anything behind or if you believe in afterlife or anything, like what about the now? Like what are you doing now to be a good person? Are you considerate of other people? Or do you care about the world? Like there's being a nihilist and stuff and saying it all doesn't matter, but if it doesn't matter, then why not be better? Why not try to feel happy and make other people feel happy? And but when going through the really dark thoughts when you're really not feeling at your best, like for me, it's laziness sometimes is my friend. Like sometimes it's too much to just think of doing any like getting up out of bed or whatever. Maybe not lazy, but just feeling so ugh, like you just don't even want to get up. But also, it's one thing that I have practiced with counseling and what they do help with is just making sure you practice gratitude and it's not being like ridiculously grateful for everything, but it's finding the things that you really care about for one and making sure you recognize all those and think of the things that you love. Like for me, I think of my cats, I think of my boyfriend. And then it's also, yeah, just okay, what can I do? What can I miss out on if I don't try, like, I and that's, like, last year when I started school, I was at another point again, and I was like, "I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna sign up for school because, yeah, it's gonna cost, maybe I'll regret it, but I need to do something because I can't make a life-altering/ending decision without trying something first." And that has been such a huge journey. I'm glad I did it because going to school is it's definitely a journey. It's not just what you're gonna it's the cliche thing, it's not about the end, it's the journey. And the journey of going to school has really helped me build some confidence in myself and go, oh, okay, like I have gotten in touch with my creative side a bit. I've also met different people with doing the social media stuff and now with my podcast thing. So it's definitely worth it to just keep trying for sure. Like don't give up. And that sounds corny too, especially when you're in the moment and you hear someone saying, don't give up. And you might think from your lens and your view, this person's saying that. I bet their life is better than mine. Cause that's what I've always thought. That's something I realized I had so much envy because I wanted my life to be different. And it's no, everyone's going through stuff. So just keep trying. keep keep going on.
And you're right. Everyone does go through stuff. We are all going through some. Everyone deals with mental health in one aspect or another in their life. And like I've say it over and over. And if someone tells you they're, completely happy, they're not depressed ever, they've never felt like this, I'm calling bullshit right off the hop. Because everyone's gone through something in their life, whether it be a tragic event, a traumatic experience when you're younger and stuff like that, or whatever it is. But somewhere along the line, everyone's gone through something to do with mental health one way or another. We all just share it differently. We all hold it in differently. Everyone else deals with it differently too, and that's okay. There's not one linear path to deal with mental health, to deal with recovery. Some people go to AA meetings, some people go to NA meetings. For myself at the beginning, yes, I did go, but I just found there was more to it than just these meetings and meeting with people in just that circle. And I found there was too many clicks for my liking, and that's okay. And I'm happy to share that out in the open, and that's my opinion. That I'm entitled to it. Maybe A or the meetings aren't for everyone, but there's no right or wrong which way you do your recovery either. At the end of the day,
Yeah, that's I really appreciated which I commented on a few days ago was Sarah Spears who was on. She was so like inspirational to me. She seems so amazing with what she's doing with her life now and like her experience and how she's using that as an advocate and doing so much for people, especially in human trafficking and stuff. I don't think people not people, but sometimes, yeah, there's a lot when you go through things in life and you can't just be like, hey, I'm out of that. I can pick myself up and start my life over. It's no, it's really difficult. If you don't have support, resources, and it's hard to find your way down a healthy, positive path kind of thing. It's really good to have people who recognize, like, okay, someone's going through something. You can't just say, "Okay, you're on your own." Like, people need support, and that's what I needed with when I was in bad relationships, and I'm so lucky I have my sister because I when I was in a bad place or a situation, we always somehow our lives would seem to align where we both were in a place where it's like it made sense for us to live together or something. I'm really lucky to have that because if you're in a bad situation and you don't have someone to help you get out of it, then you're stuck. And that's how you get people who are in these coercively controlling relationships and domestic violence and stuff like that.
well, that's amazing though, and you're right. You hit another point there too. Having those support systems in place. Because every time I tried to get clean earlier on in life, it was the same thing over and over again. I didn't reach out for help or I didn't have a support system in place. I thought I knew everything. This time around, I had to set up a support system, go to recovery meetings, do those types of things, and keep reaching out, keep sharing what's going on with me. I'm still working on that. Communication was never a strong point, and it still isn't. But through this podcast, doing this show that of mine, and talking with others, communication has come a long ways. And especially in different parts of my life as well, whether my professional life, my relationships at home with my partner, with my intimate one, and stuff like that. There's still a work in progress, but there's so much work that can be done as well. So, and it's one day at a time, like you said. I love that you said that earlier too. It's so true. One day at a time for anything in life. Doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yes, and that's something that's hard for me too with anxiety. It was like a few months ago, I think, when I made the arrangement for the podcast, and I was just like, okay, it's coming. It's yeah, worry, think about it when it gets close to that time. When your brain's just like fixating on things and then overthinking and worrying about stuff. It's okay, dial that down. You don't have to be overthinking and over worrying about stuff, but again, if you're used to it, it's becomes like your base level almost. And it's no, you don't have to be hyper focused and thinking of all the scenarios of things that can happen, or what's this person thinking? What are they how's this going to turn out? And yeah, it's just don't worry. Why don't you just go with the flow? But it's hard. It's hard for me to do that.
No, for sure. And it is hard sometimes, but sometimes you just got to remember is take it one step at a time, one day at a time, and you do get through things at the end of the day. Some days are easier than others, and that's okay. You touched a
Yes.
little bit on gratitude earlier on. What do you feel more often, gratitude or envy? And what are you most grateful for?
I feel a lot of envy and I don't like that. So I think that shows that I'm not in the place where I'm fully have embraced my life or something. Like it's and so one thing that I would do for homework, for example, was I had different things each day. I had to write three things I was that three times someone made me smile, or three things I'm grateful for, three things that made me laugh. It doesn't have to be just the gratitude. It's finding the moments that make you feel happy and that you appreciate throughout your day to help you again create that channel in your brain so that you're thinking positively. So the thing I'm most grateful for, I'm really grateful I think for like myself having my own inner drive to keep going forward. I'm grateful I have that, and I'm grateful to have like my boyfriend in my life because I think he's the most supportive person and I can talk to him about anything, and he's seen me when I've been feeling crazy, I haven't been on my medication properly and I'm having a bad week or something, and he's there for me to hug me or to go, "Okay, I know you're not feeling the best right now. That kind of hurt me that you said this or something, but I know it's not coming from how you normally are," or something. Like it's really it's helping me to have someone who doesn't I'm not scared to come home to or something. And sometimes being alone it can be scary because you're with yourself. And so I was like in bad relationships. I lived on my own. And then now I'm in this relationship where, yeah, I can ask for help for something if I need help. I don't, I'm not walking on eggshells or anything being at home. So there's a lot of things I'm grateful in that respect, and that I do have a roof over my head, and I wish I could make more money, but I'm still got my bills paid. My cat, I found out recently, has diabetes, but he's doing okay now. So there's just all these things to be grateful for because things could be so much worse, and things are in a really good place for me.
That's
Yeah.
all that matters. If you're in a good place, you have a roof over your head, you have food on the table, your cat's being taken care of, you have a fun and loving partner at home. It seems like now. It sounds like you're in a much better headspace, say, than you were 2, 3 years ago, and you have someone that cares about you, someone that you don't have to walk on eggshells around, which is nice. That makes your life a hell of a lot easier when you have a partner, a life partner that you don't have to walk on eggshells and be worried, all right, if I say this, what's his reaction going to be, or what's their reaction going to be, or her reaction. I've been in those types of relationships as well, and it's not fun to be in them either.
Yeah, and I see you
And I
post
was
about
unpredictable too as a partner at times in my life too. I'm guilty as charged as well. Sometimes you'd have to, is he going to have an angry outburst, or is he going to do that? But I'm in a much better headspace now that it's getting much better now, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah, I always see you post about your fiance and stuff, and it's just I can see how she's clearly someone that's so, like, important and supportive of you, and it's so important to have that. I always had this mentality where it's I'm a lone wolf and I need to do things on my own kind of thing, 'cause that's how it's felt for a lot of my life, but it really like, we are human beings, and, like, maybe some people do function better being alone, but and I wish I could function better on my own, but I'm self-destructive at times, and having someone there to help me to laugh and to help me to keep my brain interested in different things. There's just so many things that are so great when you have the right partner that's there to help you in all kinds of aspects of your life, to keep you on your toes, to keep your brain going and stuff, to keep you laughing, to make you feel loved and happy, and to support you, to be there if you're having financial issues or anything. It's really nice to have that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But for a long time, I always thought, I just want to make it on my own. Why can't I do this on my own?
No, 100%. And it's nice to think that you can do things on your own, but it's also nice to have someone that you can do those things with as well. If I'm left to my own devices, it's usually a really big shit show sometimes if I do all my own thinking or get in my own head and let my brain do the work sometimes. So it's always nice to have that accountability partner. But some of my ideas can get far fetched some days with my mental health and my ADHD and everything. So I got to have someone in there to reel me back in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's good to have that.
But so what's a big trigger for you during your recovery along these last few months? What's one of the biggest triggers you have and how are you working through that?
I think a big thing is, and that's something I've talked about a lot in my counseling and stuff, is like, how do you go from the things you normally do and everything you do is supported by having a drink to enhance it kind of thing. So it's like my favorite shows I love watching and things like that. It's like, how do it's that's the hardest on like a Friday when a certain show I like to watch is on and it's one that's a more fun show. So I want to feel fun. And it's getting over the idea that you don't need the alcohol to feel like that, and so to combat that, a lot of it for me has been eating popcorn. I love popcorn and I've been eating when I'm like, okay, maybe I want to drink. I'm like, I think I'm gonna make some popcorn because that takes a couple minutes. It distracts me, tastes good after.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. So as long as you have your triggers figured out, that's the main thing too. Because if you don't know what your triggers are, they can creep up really quick, and you're one drink away from a relapse at any given point. You got to remember too that the things can creep up. You might have a shitty day, but you don't need to go have a drink to fix that shitty day either. Work through that day, whether it's writing down those feelings, those thoughts. Let those feelings run through you too.
Yes, I think Sarah might have said it in that episode she was on, but also it's something that a mantra I've been trying to also instill is you're going to feel uncomfortable or you feel uncomfortable. It's like it's being in tune with how you're feeling too. If you suddenly feel triggered, it's you have to go, why do I feel like this? So with like food's another huge thing for me. That was always an issue from when I was a very young age. And so it's also okay, so it's just all these little things that you're trying to manage, and it's it gets feels overwhelming sometimes because it's, "Okay, I don't wanna drink. I also don't wanna eat this way. I also need to try to exercise. I also need to go to work," and so it's, "Hey, figure out just one thing at a time, one day at a time." But, like, it snowballs too a little bit, like, if you in a good way, like, if you have one thing that's the big thing in your life, like, for me, if it's alcohol, if I'm not drinking, I'm not spending the money on alcohol, I'm also not eating as much, so I'm not spending as much money on food, I'm being healthier, I'm having better sleeps, so then it intersects all these things. Yeah, knowing, like, what triggers you, it's really you have to, like, also come at it as thinking, "Why do I feel this way?" And kinda thing, and yeah, and just learning about yourself.
Yeah, you gotta learn and like learn what makes you tick. Think about those things. If you're feeling those uncomfortable feelings, well, like you just said, why am I feeling this way? So you gotta think back. Okay, what did I just do that made me get to this point now of me feeling this way? Could have been something you did, something you had seen, or whatever the case may be. But you just gotta think back and work through those feelings, and usually you come out on top for the most part. I find today, if you work through those feelings with yourself, with someone else, writing them down, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and that's why journaling is good. Man, just talking about all this, I'm like, it feels like so much work just to try to be a person sometimes, but it just, I think, eventually just becomes a part of your daily routine and stuff. It's just like little things. It sometimes feels like a lot, but journaling is super helpful. Like even like yesterday, I was having a day where I was like, I feel like I just feel disorganized. I feel like I don't know where I am right now today. So I just pulled out my laptop and I have my little different journal entry things. And I just write, okay. Like sometimes if I don't know what to say, I'm like, hello, this is Veronica, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm having a conversation with myself and I go, and sometimes I'll, like, let myself be dramatic and just because I just feel like it's, today was the most awful day ever. I can't believe meh," blah, blah, blah. Or, like, you're just getting things out, and then if you also keep track and you like, when I look back at different journal entries, I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I wrote that." And then I see things getting more positive the more I'm getting to this point where I am in life where I'm like, "Hey, this kinda sucks. I'm not really happy about this, but this is what I'm doing to try to change it." And I hope that it's having the SMART goals, so it's like sustainable goals, attainable, time bound, and things that you really know that you can actually do and stuff, like not just the big general things. It's okay, I just wanna wake at this time every day or something, and I'm gonna just have it like 20 minutes more like earlier than I normally do. I think I can do that. And so it's not just going hard at all your goals and doing it all at once and having them be big, huge things. You have to know yourself and know what your limits are, what you're going to be able to follow through on, because you also don't want to then beat yourself up because you didn't do something or whatever.
No, and you don't beat yourself up at the end of the day either, because tomorrow's a new day. Yesterday's gone, tomorrow hasn't come. So just try and live in that present moment. I find works the best too. And I like how you mentioned about journaling. Journaling is huge. Whether you get on your laptop and do your own little journal entries, or writing, I find I like writing down pen to paper too. I just feel sometimes I guess it's doing that action of putting that pen to the paper I find really helps. I have a gratitude journal and I like writing in it. I try to write in it every day, or some days I skip a couple days, but I try to do that consistently. And then me and my fiance also have a thing I've posted about that too, but every Sunday we write one thing we're grateful for every week, and we're on year 2 now. So we took out everything from last year, 2021, and took it out and read it just at the beginning of the new year. It was awesome to do.
Oh, that's so sweet. And that's
Yeah,
I don't know why I haven't done that yet, because that seems like just
I
an
think you should
obvious
do
little
it.
fun thing to do, and it's yeah, it's a nice little thing. Or even if you
Yeah,
do it,
and
like, once a month or once a week, even if you're just like,
once a week, we do it once every Sunday night. We write it before we go to bed, or Monday
"Oh,
morning when we
okay.
wake up, and we
Oh,
put it in
that's
a little
awesome."
jar. And then at the end of the year, you take them all out. What we did ourselves, you can do whatever we want. We sorted out the months, and then we each read a month, sort of thing, back and forth. So we each read 6 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and sort of
Uh,
things that we would, whatever it was, or whether it was the sex was great, or or whatever, or anything like it was just whatever. It was fun though.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's and I'm definitely gonna do that too, by the way. But one thing, like, my boyfriend and I would do, which we haven't done for a while, I found this little weird baby toy. It's this little baby I found on the ground somewhere when I was cleaning. And I was like, that thing looks creepy. I'm gonna take it home. So then I took it home. And then like my boyfriend and I, we began like a war of hiding it in weird spots on each other. And so I would tape it to his underwear in his underwear drawer or something, and he'd like find it, or we'd put it in just random spots. And he put it in our roll of tape, and then he taped it in, and it just was entombed there for a while. So I just brought it out recently because I was like, "Oh, he's been in there for a while. We should start this again." Yeah, it's just
That's awesome. Hey,
creating
the fun things you can do with your partners.
yeah, exactly. So that's the another big thing, laughter is definitely the best medicine.
S For sure, having a good sense of humor and learning how to take a joke. Not everything in life is serious as well, and that's one thing I've had to learn too. Like, some people, you don't always have to think everyone's attacking you and becoming a defensive with everything that's said to you as well.
And I was so introvert. I'm sure like a couple years ago, and especially 10 years ago or so, if I saw myself doing something like this right now, I'd be like, "What? How do you talk to people? What?" Because I just never knew how to talk to people. I was so quiet. I would just think, "Okay, there's people around. What do I say? What do I say? What do I say?" And I just wouldn't know what to say, so I'd just be really quiet. And my dad would sometimes joke and be like, "God, quit talking my ear off," because I would just sit and be quiet. But yeah, it's definitely yeah, it's just having a good sense of humor really helps to connect you with people and stuff.
For sure, and that's huge in life. Just being able to laugh, like laughter, is an amazing piece of medicine. It's free, it's natural.
It makes you feel good. It, like, actually chemically does. So there's so many reasons to laugh, and if you know what it is that makes you laugh, then that's something like or the just knowing certain like, I have certain podcasts that they almost become, like, really comforting, so sometimes I'm just like, "I'm in the mood for this podcast today," while I'm working or something, because I just it, like, soothes my soul or something to listen to if I'm feeling really stressed or whatever kinda thing. You just find the thing that it is, whatever it is in your life that makes you feel soothed, and yeah, it's and then, yeah, you just enjoy it, and that's what life really is. It's trying to enjoy it. So I think that's helped me combat a lot of things, especially the like bad thoughts, the suicidal ideation and stuff. It sucks when you're in those moments, but when you're out of it and you're feeling really good, it's really nice. So it's
For
worth it
sure,
to
it's amazing, and it's such an amazing feeling when you're, and you can crash really quick too, but when you're
yes.
having those good moments, try and hang on to them if you can. There's so many more better days ahead as well. I love that you talk about just having more freedom in your life with all these things going on. So how has sobriety given you more freedom in your life now today?
Well, it's for one, like it helps money wise for sure, but it's also like, not feeling sick, because again, like all these things tie into to a lot of things because I take medication. Well, I can't be drinking and taking medication or it's not effective. Like it's not helping me to do that. So that's another thing. And it just being able to wake up in the morning and feel clear-headed, to be able to talk to people and remember things. Remembering things is such a huge thing, which it sucks like when you're going through the what's it called? Like the post recovery kind of thing where it's not just a couple days or a week, like, it takes a while for your body to get back to a base level, so I like, it's okay, I'm not I'm going into my sobriety, but I still feel not super mentally clear. My memory is sucking, all this kind of stuff. But these are all things because your body's now having to adjust and reprogram itself to be normal. But I can feel the difference. It's just getting everything to align better. My body wants to wake up earlier, but my head doesn't think. But once I can get to that point where I can wake up early and have all the energy that I'm wanting to have and be able to talk to people and not be like hungover or be drunk and not know what I'm saying to people kind of thing, like it definitely makes such a huge difference.
It's really good when you can feel the freedom, having all that, money in your pocket now and all those types of things, but also the mental clarity starts coming back. It does take some time as well. It's still, working itself out of my system to this day, and almost 2.5 years clean and sober now myself. But it's going to take some time. Just give it that time. Don't give up. I can say that much. Just keep pushing through one day at a time. It will come along, though, Veronica, for sure. It just,
Yeah.
that fog's going to eventually lift. My memory is shot with certain things I've done over my lifetime, but it is what it is. But I'm working with what I got left now, and I'm just rewiring that brain to do better things, do the
Yeah,
next right thing, too.
yeah, it definitely is work, but it's exciting when you start seeing changes happening, so it's worth it.
Before we go, where can everyone find you, your social media handles, if they want to follow you, check your show out again? They can find it over, like you said, on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods. Where can they find you, though, to check Rambling Ronnie out?
Yes, so Rambling Ronnie's podcast. I'm really more active on my profiles for that. So if you go to Twitter, it's at Rambling RONI. And if you go to Instagram and Facebook, you can look up the Rambling Ronnie's podcast. And I have an email. It's Rambling Ronnie's podcast at gmail.com. If you're into true crime, you can send me case suggestions. Or if you like movies and you want to hear someone review a movie, you can send that suggestion over to me. I'm trying out some different things and having fun. So just let me know. But for true crime, obviously, if there's anything that you want covered, or if there's anyone, I really appreciate people who cover unsolved cases, especially like missing people and stuff. I really want to support that kind of people who need their voices heard for that too. Yeah, you can just find me on all those and have a listen to my podcast and let me know what you think.
Thank you again for taking the time out of your day to come on From the Depths of Darkness to the Light of Success. It was a pleasure having you on. I learned so much from you, learned a lot about you. And if there's anything I could take away from today's show, it's to never give up on yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, Veronica.
Thank you. I hope I do too. Same to you.